Hi, I'm Amber Butchart. Welcome to Theatre of Fashion in Conversation at the V&A. Today I'm going to be talking to Helene Thian. She's a scholar whose research on Japonism in the work of David Bowie has helped to inform the David Bowie Is exhibition that's running right now here at the V&A. Her research also looks at gender and androgyny and East and West relations, so I'm really looking forward to hearing more.
This is knitwear designed by Kansai for David Bowie, and what I found interesting as I did visual research was by chance, but not perhaps, to find this Meiji era, 1868 to 1912, swimwear.
I came across these actually a few months ago on the internet and was just blown away by them. They're just incredible. I would love to hear more about them.
Yes, yeah. Yes. This was the swimwear of the era for women. It was modest. Most of them were, you know, sort of like long underwear. But they always had a patterning, particularly stripes, whether vertical or horizontal. And I just was floored to see that similarity in this knitwear that Kansai designed. And I don't think, to be clear, that this was a conscious thing. I think this is an unconscious process of being influenced by historical tradition and letting it come out. The artist does that, right? And actually, this was the inspiration for this knitwear, which is the patterning of kimono. And you can see how, when you look at the kimono and the obi there in the middle, which is the belt, that how that causes the body to be subdivided, and then the layering and the contrast of the patterns. This is what Kansai said clearly in information that he sent to me, that this was the influence for this knitwear. So also what I found interesting were the Yakuza tattoos, because it really does remind me of that. And Kansai was a big one at the time. He was even photographed in some UK magazine layouts, completely tattooed. I don't think they were real, I mean, but they were imitative, you know, of the image of a Yakuza tattoo. And so this masculine image superimposed with a feminine Meiji Jidai swimwear image and kimono leads to this androgyny. And I think you see all the influences in this knitwear. Mm. Yes.
And so the tattooing, this was a tradition.
Long-standing in Japan. It's not something that's contemporary that people, as they do think now. And this was basically for the outsider, the Yakuza or the sort of criminal gang, for want of a better description. And it was usually full body. This man doesn't have it, the jacket tattoo, but it was completely covering the body. And so this was a choice to mark yourself visually as an outsider. Absolutely. And you had this part of your little pinky cut off. You still do, to signify brothership and membership in the Confederation. I think he was translating that sort of ethos into the designs, but maybe unconsciously, because consciously, anyway, he says it was the kimono patterning and the layering of these patterns that was the influence for the knitwear that he created for Bowie.
Right. Just to move back to this quickly, this swimwear, is this traditional Japanese swimwear, or is it the Western? Because that's it's very similar to Western swimwear.
Yes, because Meiji era from 1868 to 1912 is also known as sort of the equivalent of the Industrial Revolution. So Japan was modernizing, and it was getting greatly influenced by academic exchange, interchange with the West, and opening up, since it had opened up in the 1865 period when the American Civil War was going on. And so Japan was taking these influences, and people were just starting to wear Western fashion, and it was interesting scenes of the period to see people dressed in kimono versus those who were trying to wear the Western bustle and go into this sort of 19th century Belle Epoque aesthetic or something. But this, yes, is obviously taken from the influence of the West, but the stripes and the coloration, and again, this sort of dividing the body up, you can go back and see it in kimono for centuries. So yeah. I think it's a hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah. David Bowie. And these are images of...
Sorry, so the fact that spells out his name and also has this other meaning, is that a huge, incredible coincidence?
No. That was orchestrated. Kansai did that on purpose so that his name would be included there. But obviously foreigners don't there are no characters, so it's just phonetically, but to pick the characters that symbolize who he is. So the man who menacingly spits out fiery words in a threatening manner, okay, that's what that means if you took it literally as a poetic sort of translation. And I think that was Kansai's creation, to visualize Bowie as that person and then find those characters that interpreted that, which is rather wonderful.
Incredible.
And I think the inspiration of the color white is a long held tradition in Japan, because as you see, these are Shinto priests, and those robes have been like that for centuries. And what they call the kyo katabira, which are the sutras inscribed on the white robes. This is not a particular shot of that, but this is similar to that idea. So Buddhist scripture would be actually inscribed on the Shinto robes. And additionally, the color white is representative in Japanese lore of ghost stories and the dead, and something extremely spiritual. So if you go to a Japanese funeral, the color is white. That's the body shrouded in on. So these also have to do with the idea of death and ghostliness, as well as you know, something that would be a good background for the bright characters to be displayed on. There is a deep meaning to the color white in Japanese lore.
Right.
Yeah.
And how did that use of white sort of inform what Bowie was specifically doing, do you think, the associations with death?
I think that, well, as you know, My Death, one of his famous songs of the period, I think he was a person who is interested in that dichotomy of life-death. And also, when we get to the slides with the Kabuki and the makeup and the geisha, it carries forward Lindsay's impulse about the onagata and the role of whiteness. As Lindsay said to me, I was shocked and fascinated by their whiteness when he first saw the images of geisha and onagata all in this white makeup, because it's so disarming at first in a way. It's unnatural and ghostly and ethereal and otherworldly, but at the same time something so beautiful because it's so extreme. And I think it influenced him a great deal, and in turn, no doubt showing these books of Kabuki and No masks, which are also white, to David Bowie, I think that had a great effect, obviously, on him.